Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Different by Design. I'm your host, Nick Treaster, and today, as a native Kansas Citian and an enthusiast of automotive history, I'm going to be taking you around the Leeds automotive plant that was a GM plant from 1928 until 1988. This was a plant that was located near Kansas City and produced many cars up until the late 80s. This part is actually the front main offices that would have housed many functions to keep the plant running efficiently, such as the manufacturing groups or the purchasing and planning. This is what the same building looked like all the way back in 1935. This next part, I'm going to show you this old bridge here. I actually found an old photo of it. You can see the Kansas City Southern lines in the background. This plant produced a wide variety of products for General Motors. According to ChevelStuff.net, the Chevrolet vehicles that they produced were passenger cars from 1955 to 1963. They produced the Chevelle from 1964 to 1972. They produced the El Camino from 64 to 1974, the Monte Carlo from 1971 to 1972, and the GMC Spirit from 1971 to 1972. Here's a neat little photograph I found online of their 5 millionth car. Notice the car on the left. It was probably only 30 or 40 years old when this photograph was taken. Kind of cool. And then to add to that accomplishment, here we are a million cars later with the 6 millionth car. This plant was very productive, and at the height of its production, it was employing up to 4,000 people and producing 60 cars an hour. Like many other General Motors facilities of its day, there was a Fisher body plant that was actually next door to the General Motors assembly line. A separate facility with separate employees. They would actually assemble the bodies kind of like a coach builder and then pass those bodies through a hole in the wall to the people on the other side that would do the final assembly. And that lasted up until 1969, when General Motors combined most of those functions together. The Kansas City Leeds plant was restructured along with 18 other General Motors plants into a new division called GMAD, which stood for General Motors Assembly Division. The restructuring was a part of General Motors' initiative to improve productivity and profitability. Under this restructuring in the 1970s, the Kansas City Leeds plant continued to produce the Monte Carlo, El Camino, and the Malibu. The efficiencies and layoffs that were brought by this restructuring put General Motors and its employees in an adversarial relationship. In a New York Times article from the era, it was said that every single plant that was a part of this GMAD restructuring had labor disputes almost immediately upon this restructuring going into effect. This is not the first time that General Motors would restructure this plant, and it's certainly not the first time that General Motors would have issues with its labor force. In fact, the Leeds plant in Kansas City was actually the site of the catalyst for the UAW being recognized by General Motors. By the time the 1930s had come around, advances in production techniques and technology had enabled automotive firms to despecialize the manufacturing process where vehicles were made. Remember that this plant would have been built in 1928, which would have been at the height of that revolution. By lowering the specialization required to build each vehicle, General Motors and firms like it were able to reduce the cost and offer these products to the masses. A great number of unskilled workers were required to work on the assembly lines at plants like the Leeds automotive facility. In this era, workers on the assembly line were often subjected to poor or hazardous working conditions, and there was no representation against the companies that were hiring them. You have to keep in mind, by the 1930s, most of the dust had settled from the development of the automotive industry, and these industries had consolidated. Now sprinkle in the Great Depression, and that sets the stage for the story that I'm about to tell you. In May of 1935, the United Auto Workers Union was founded to give a voice to auto workers in plants like this one. The only issue was that they were not recognized in any of the major automotive manufacturing plants in the US, and they were not recognized by any of the automakers. Most of the control was held by these large corporations that had all the power, resources, and political influence in the United States, and it was still yet to be seen if auto unions were actually going to represent workers. For the United Auto Workers to receive credibility, they needed to be representing employees at a plant, and they needed to be recognized by the automakers. But to do that, they were going to have to strike and create the conditions where their voice could be heard. Those conditions were met because on November 18, 1936, the UAW held a sit-down strike at the Atlanta or Lakewood manufacturing facility. And then about a month later, an individual employee was fired at the Leeds, Kansas City plant. And in response to that, the Fisher body plant employees decided to strike. Remember how I was telling you that there used to be a hole in the wall where they would send car bodies through so that they could continue the assembly process? Well, after the strike on the Fisher body side, the Chevrolet employees also decided to join the strike after they ran out of car bodies to assemble. This wasn't just any old strike either. This was one of the first instances of what's called a sit-down strike, where the workers essentially blockade themselves inside of the plant, blocking any means necessary of General Motors management getting to the machines or assembly line to be able to continue producing the product. Because the factory workers were confined to the four walls of the factory, many of the family members would bring them food and sustenance while they were striking in place. Many of the factory workers would try and pass the time by singing labor songs. They were even able to establish a church service and develop a police force to keep the peace within the four walls of that factory during the strike. General Motors also tried to respond by offering a holiday bonus to the workers, which they rejected, and they weren't successful in having the police forcibly remove the strikers from the plant. This wasn't the first strike at an automotive plant, and this was in an era when it was extremely dangerous to strike. These big, large corporations would often resort to violence to get their tactics through. Another thing to note is this was one of the larger General Motors plants at the time outside of Michigan. This plant carried a particular amount of political influence within the upper management of GM, and it also had outside influence with other plants. Although this whole movement started at the Atlanta facility, it's really the events that occurred at the Leeds facility that was like the match that lit the gasoline as far as establishing unions within this country. This easily could have been a plant event or a regional event, but it spread like a contagion to other plants, and eventually there was a sit-down strike at the Flint facility up in Michigan. That led to the famous Flint sit-down strike, and after 44 days of striking, General Motors agreed to end the strike by increasing the wages by $25 million, and also recognizing the United Auto Workers as the official representation body on February 17, 1937. General Motors was the first major automaker to recognize the United States Auto Workers, or the UAW. After that, in 1941, Ford followed suit and also recognized the UAW. The plant events that happened at the Leeds facility were kind of like a domino and a chain reaction. I had no idea as a Kansas Cityan that union activity was even a conversation that happened in Kansas City's past. Most people don't talk about this plant or maybe don't even know about it. So it's kind of interesting that this plain old brick building had all these events occur in it. You would never know that by driving by. Most of the Atlanta, Georgia Lakewood plant where the strike began was reduced to rubble by the late 90s, although some of it still exists. Now, the plant where the strike ended, Flint, Michigan, most of it was torn down by 2004. So at the time of the filming, the only plant that was still a part of that conversation that was left really standing at all was this plant here in Kansas City. So let's get back to our story about how this ended and how this plant ended up being torn down. Now, the Leeds plant in Kansas City was also known for producing cars for General Motors other than Chevrolet. It also produced cars for BOC, which was Buick, Oldsmobile, and Cadillac. This was yet another attempt at restructuring by General Motors, and the plant was restructured in the 1980s under this one roof. The Leeds Automotive Facility in Kansas City was one of four plants, the others being Lordstown, Ohio, Janesville, Wisconsin, and Southgate, California, that were assigned the J-body platform, which was a traverse front-mounted engine front-wheel drive car. The Leeds plant in Kansas City primarily produced the Buick Skyhawk and also the Oldsmobile Forenza. They also added the production of the Chevrolet Cavalier, and they produced that car in the 1980s. On April 15, 1988, they stopped production as the sales of these models declined. In an article from that era when the plant closed, it said that the Buick Skyhawk and Oldsmobile Forenza were some of the worst-selling models made by GM. When the layoffs happened, there was about 1,400 hourly workers and about 200 salary workers that were affected. They tried to bring back production of the S10 to that plant, but unfortunately the plant was landlocked on both sides, one side being the railroad tracks that we showed earlier, and the other side being a river or body of water. The plant was redeveloped into an industrial and storage complex that was used for many years. This is a rail line outside of the plant. As you can see, this concrete formwork is from an era when they didn't have plywood, which is kind of neat. This would have been pretty much all hand-built. The plant likely would have continued to be utilized, but unfortunately in 2021, a fire broke out in the center of the building and damaged a lot of the structure, making it so that they had to tear it down. In 2022, a developer purchased the property to build a new warehouse, and they tore down the remaining plant. I found some video online that shows them tearing the plant down, and I'll share it here. But unfortunately, this plant has met the end of its demise and has been pushed into the earth. like so many other relics of our union and automotive history. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.